chapter 15. There's not a whole lot that I think that you guys must know from this chapter. Um, and so we're just going to get into it. But real quickly, there's just two main parts is different characteristics of the animal kingdom, because we're going to be starting the animal kingdom, chapters 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Okay? Chapter 19 is more ecology, so we're talking about like the environment, pollution, and these kind of things, but they have a lot to do with animals, so that's why we group it all together. But chapter 15, we're starting with invertebrates. Two main things about all animals is their, how we classify them. And then the second thing we're going to talk about is just some specific phylum of invertebrates. Okay, so chapter 15, starting with some of the characteristics of animals, right? When we talked about the characteristics of living things, there were many different characteristics that we have. And these are characteristics of living things, but specifically characteristics of animals. For example, animals exhibit movement, right? Animals have two types of support, an exoskeleton or an endoskeleton, right? Us as humans, we have an endoskeleton, right? Endo meaning within, exo meaning outside. So you can think about what would be an outside skeleton, right? Like a beetle. A beetle has a hard outer shell that is its skeleton on the outside. It doesn't have bones on the inside. It just has a hard shell, outer skin. Okay. Whereas us as humans, our skeleton or what gives us our support is our bone structure within us. Okay. So you could think of those two different types of endo or exoskeleton. Um, Also, animals have a protective body covering. All right, some have feathers, skin, a shell like a turtle, fur like dogs, bears, scales like snakes, and other protective body coverings. Right? We have skin as humans. Nutrition: animals are heterotrophic, meaning no animals are autotrophic, meaning they don't have the ability to produce their own food from sunlight, right? We don't exhibit photosynthesis, and no animals do. Bugs don't. There's no animals or no part of the animal kingdom that is autotrophic. All right. Respiration: all animals need oxygen, right? We all need oxygen to survive. But there's different ways that we obtain that oxygen, right? For example, we as humans, we have lungs. All right. Fish have gills. It's a way that they pull oxygen out of water, and um, snakes have something called, spiders have something called hook lungs, right? But all animals need oxygen, right? Animals exhibit circulation. They transport materials throughout their body. For example, we circulate oxygen and carbon dioxide through our blood circulatory system, which we'll learn about in our next section of learning after we're done with our chapter tests. Excretion, sorry, that's spelled wrong. It should be excretion, right? This is the elimination of waste materials. In our body, we have an excretory system. That is, where we produce urine. Okay. Response: the ability to perceive and respond to stimuli in the environment. When we talked about the attributes of living things, one of the attributes was irritability, right? And so this is a particular characteristic of animals, that we are able to respond to stimuli in the environment. Also, reproduction, preserving the life of the species. Animals usually have a sexual form of reproduction. Okay. Symmetry, characteristics of animals. Animals, in terms of symmetry, there's different ways that animals can be divided into equal halves. For example, humans, we only have one way, bilateral, that we can be divided into equal halves. Okay, meaning we can't be cut across our stomach equally, right? But you could be cut straight down the middle, where you'd have an eye on either side, an arm on either side, a leg on either side. Okay. We are symmetrical on the outside. We are not symmetrical on the inside, meaning our heart is on one side, but other things are not on the others. All right. So that's what we mean by symmetry. Some animals can be cut symmetrically in more than one different way. Okay. Invertebrates are animals without a backbone, and vertebrates are animals with backbones. These are the two main classification or breakdowns of the animal kingdom. All right. So moving into, we're talking about invertebrates. Uh, the first two phyla, Porifera and Cnidaria, they have no organs or body systems, right? These are things like sponges, hydras, jellyfish, right? Corals and sea anemones. These are all considered to be part of the animal kingdom. These are not plants, okay? Here's a picture of sponges, right? And you have a interesting looking jellyfish there, right? A big jellyfish there, okay? And if you ever seen Finding Nemo, you know what jellyfish can do, right? Uh, this right here is living coral, okay? Now you've probably all seen coral when it dies. I have some in my bathroom as like a display, but this is living coral. If you get cut by coral, it can be very infectious, and that is what we call a sea anemone, right? From Finding Nemo. Hopefully you guys know what a sea anemone is. Those little white things. And only certain animals can live with them because they do have a electric pulse sort of shocking power. Okay, moving on to some other phyla of the animal kingdom, invertebrates again. Three different types of worms, right? I'm not going to try and pronounce all these, but platyhelminthes, right? These are the flatworms, right? Free living, meaning that they can live on their own. These are planarians, and then parasitic are flukes, tapeworms, etc. So sometimes you have this kind of flatworm living in your stomach. Okay, that's not a good thing. If that's the case, you need to go to the doctor. But flatworms, it's a pretty disgusting, actually, problem to have. But tapeworms, things that live inside of humans, and they are parasitic, meaning if they don't live inside of the human, they will die. Okay? You say, how do they get in there? Well, they come in as an egg or living on a piece of meat or food, and you eat it, and then the eggs hatch in your stomach and they begin to eat. All right? Nematoda are roundworms, all right? And then also the segmented worm, which is what you guys are probably common to seeing. This is like the earthworm. An earthworm has a closed circulatory system, which means the blood remains in the blood vessels the entire time. The blood vessels discharge the nutrients and oxygen into the tissues of the body. Whereas for humans, our body goes from blood vessels into what's known as the alveoli, which then can receive oxygen. And then when they get to the different parts of the body, like your fingers and stuff, they branch out into smaller vessels so that they can distribute the oxygen and pick up carbon dioxide. But for worms, they have what's called a closed circulatory system, meaning the blood never goes out of the blood vessel. Okay, that right there is what we example of a flatworm. As you can see, it's kind of flat, right? That's a platyhelminthes, right? A flatworm. There's a roundworm. Okay, you see it's smooth, and then the segmented worm. You can actually see the different segments, and as the worm squishes together and then extends. I'll be using these when I go fishing this weekend, but very good for catching fish are earthworms. All right. Next, mollusca. Right. Bivalvia, meaning bi meaning two, valvia. So that's easy to remember. Bi meaning two, two-shelled mollusks. Right. So that's a picture of a two-shelled mollusk. Right. There's two shells at top and bottom. Gastropoda, these are the stomach-footed mollusks, and then cephalopoda, head-footed mollusks, right? So stomach-footed mollusks, right? You'll see a picture. You've got snails, right? These are cephalopoda, head-footed mollusks. Okay, some don't have. Some are just stomach-footed mollusks, right? That would be like a slug, and then the cephalopoda, head and footed mollusks, right? So different types of mollusks, right? There's a snail. You can get a good question. Gnarly little eyes he's got, little tentacles. Don't like salt, of course. All right, moving on to echinodermata. All right, so these you don't have to know, but it is very important. I think easy to remember is Asteroidea. What is asteroid? You think of, you know, a rock in the sky, but aster meaning star, right? So the starfish. Asteroidea is the phylum for starfish. All right. Sea urchins, sand dollars, sea cucumbers, excuse me, sea lilies, and feather stars. So let's look at a few of these, right? So you've got Asteroidea, the starfish, okay? Sea urchins, right? These are Echidnodea. This right here is a sea cucumber, right? A Holothuroidea, right? Sea cucumber, very interesting looking guy right there. Looks like, you know, you could use your imagination to say what that looks like, but pretty weird looking guy. And then sea lilies, all right? And that's it for chapter 15. So just a little bit about the invertebrates. Okay, here's just a few of their phyla, right? Um, some of the mollusks and worms, right? All these are invertebrates, right? You also have different phylas with no organs or systems, okay? But important is the characteristics. These at the top, right? These are all the characteristics of the animal kingdom, right? Movement, support, protective body covering, nutrition, respiration, circulation, excretion, response, reproduction, symmetry, and then the two breakdowns, invertebrates and vertebrates. All right, so go ahead and read chapter 15, and we'll be continuing with chapter 16 shortly. If you have any questions, please reach out, and that's it.